Good morning. It is Sunday, July the 28th, 2013. The time is 10:44 hours and 59 seconds, Vancouver local time. Now, I have been described as a religionist, as a theist, and as a Christian, and as a Catholic. Now, there's something that I want to read. And I'm documenting it for myself, but I'm going to upload it to my YouTube channel. And this is from The Atlantic online at theatlantic.com, and it's dated April 23, 2012, but written by Ross Anderson, and the title is, Has Physics Made Philosophy and Religion Obsolete? And there's a photograph of some mathematical equations and graphs and stuff. Okay, I'm going to read this now. First, I'm going to adjust the picture so you guys get a wonderful view of my nose, which is not symmetrical. See, if I went like that, it would look more even, but if I look straight ahead, it looks like half my nose is missing, but I digress. Okay, here we go. Has physics made philosophy and religion obsolete? And I'll try to stick to one accent. I'll try to be serious. I will be serious. It is hard to know how future generations will regard the little sliver of history that we live in. It is hard to know what events will seem important. I'm sorry, I can't be serious to them. It is hard to know what events will seem important to them. What the narrative of now will look like to the 25th century mind. We tend to think of our time as one uniquely shaped by the advance of technology, but more and more I suspect that this will be remembered as an age of cosmology, as the moment when the human mind first internalized the cosmos that gave rise to it. Over the past century, since the discovery that our universe is expanding, science has quietly begun to sketch the structure of the entire cosmos, extending its explanatory powers across 100 billion galaxies to the dawn of space and time itself. It is breathtaking to consider how quickly we have come to understand the basics of everything from star formation to galaxy formation to universe formation. Universe formation was in italics. And now, equipped with predictive power of quantum physics, theoretical physicists are beginning to push even further into new, I'll translate farther, into new universes and new physics. Maybe this uncontrollable zeal, this uncurbed enthusiasm, is one of the reasons why I'm still single. Into controversies once thought to be squarely within the domain of theology or philosophy. I know what some of you are thinking. Take your meds. Well, I don't take meds. Maybe that's my problem. To continue, in January, Lawrence Krauss, a theoretical physicist and director of the Origins Institute at Arizona State University, published A Universe from Nothing, Why There is Something Rather Than Nothing, a book that, as its title suggests, purports to explain how something, and not just something, but the entire universe could have emerged from nothing, let me do my Carl Sagan impression, the kind of nothing implicated by quantum field theory. But before attempting to do so, the book first tells the story of modern cosmology, whipping its way through the Big Bang to microwave background radiation and the discovery of dark energy. It's a story that Krauss is well positioned to tell. In recent years, he's emerged as an unusually gifted explainer of astrophysics. One of his lectures has been viewed over 1 million times on YouTube, and his cultural reach extends to some unlikely places. Sounds like the writer likes this Krauss fella. Last year, Miley Cyrus, who the hell is that, came under fire when she tweeted a quote from Krauss that some Christians found offensive. Oops. Krauss's book quickly became a bestseller, drawing raves from popular atheists like Sam Harris and Richard Dawkins, the latter of which even compared it to The Origin of Species, for the way its final chapters were supposed to finally upend the lost trump card of the theologian. William F. Buckley Jr. impression attempt. By early spring, media coverage of a universe from nothing seemed to have run its course. But then on March 23rd, the New York Times ran a blistering review of the book, End of the Buckley Impression, written by David Albert, a philosopher of physics from Columbia University. Albert, who has a PhD in theoretical physics, argued that Krauss's nothing was in fact a something, and did so in uncompromising terms. The particular, eternally persistent, here's a Pennsylvania Dutch accent from the mid-60s in Berks County, PA, right around Kutztown. The particular, eternally persisting elementary physical stuff of the world, according to the standard presentations of relativistic quantum field theories, consists unsurprisingly of relativistic quantum fields. They have nothing whatsoever to say on the subject of where those fields came from, or of why the world should have consisted of the particular kinds of fields it does, or of why it should have consisted of fields at all, or of why there should have been a world in the first place. Period. Case closed. End of story. End of quote. So I hope you enjoyed that Pennsylvania Dutch accent, which is not my mother tongue, by the way. Because the story of modern cosmology has deep, Walter Cronkite, because the story of modern cosmology has such deep implications for the way that we humans see ourselves in the universe, it must be told correctly and without exaggeration in the classroom, in the press, and in works of popular science. And that's the way it is. Sunday, July 28th, 2013. This is Walter Cronkite, CBS News. Good night. No, okay. What was the last thing I said? Because the story of modern cosmology has such deep implications for the way that we humans see ourselves in the universe, it must be told correctly and without exaggeration in the classroom, in the press, and in works of popular science. To see two academics, parenthetically, okay, pause. I want to say this. First of all, I'm going to read this in a normal tempo, and then I'm going to read as fast as I possibly can. And I want to offer a theory or an idea, a guess why women can talk faster than men can. Because talking is a physical activity. There's work to be done in the mouth, and the bigger the mouth, the more work there is to do. Women are generally smaller, so the smaller the mouth, smaller the person, the less energy they have to use, and the less movement, the less distance there is to make the sounds. So this is one of my theories why women can talk faster. Chinese people talk fast too, even in English. But then again, I think it's because, on average, the mouth is smaller. And okay, so I'm going to read this. What the hell? I'll read this as fast as I can right now. And if I break out laughing, it's only because I can't control it. Because the story of modern cosmology has such deep implications for the way that we humans see ourselves in the universe, it must be told correctly and without exaggeration in the classroom, in the press, and in works of popular science. To see two academics, both first in theoretical physics, disagree so that intensely on such fundamental point is troubling, not because scientists... Now, again, parenthetically, folks, I'm not making fun of anybody. I want you to know that. I'm demonstrating my different voices, my different accents, and my comedy. If anybody's offended, that's your problem. I'm not going to quit doing my comedy because you're offended. If you don't like it, turn it off. Not because scientists shouldn't disagree with each other, but because here they're disagreeing about a claim being disseminated, Amsterdam accent, to the public as a legitimate scientific discovery. Readers of popular science often assume that what they're reading is backed by a strong consensus. Having recently interviewed Krauss for a different project, the rabbi from Seinfeld, I reached out to him to see if he was interested in discussing Albert's criticisms with me, the Ferris Bueller teacher, Ben Stein. Bueller. Imagine a thin man, an ectomorph, if you will, with little or no energy. Having recently interviewed Krauss for a different project, or Krauss, I guess is the American pronunciation, I reached out to him to see if he was interested in discussing Albert's criticisms with me. He said that he was, and mentioned that he would be traveling to New York on April 20th to speak. I won't tell you whose birthday anniversary that is, and I won't tell you why I know. I feel guilty already. To speak at a memorial service for Christopher Hitchens, as is of fond memory for atheists. As it happened, I was also due to be... I crossed myself. That's a Catholic thing. If I offended anybody, I'm sorry, please. I didn't mean it. Well, I meant it, but I didn't mean to offend anybody. Why am I? I'm single and I don't have children. Is this why I'm nuts? Has it happened, or do I just... Okay, don't blame me on Canada, okay? Blame me on the East Coast of the United States, because that's where I grew up. And that's where I got my sense of humor. So that's all I'm going to say. As it happened, I was also due to be in New York. And how dare you? Oh, wait a minute. I didn't hear anything. I'm just kidding. As it happened, I was also due to be in New York that weekend. And so last Friday, we were able to sit down for the extensive and at times contentious conversation calls. Okay, I don't understand physics. I took physics in high school. This is parenthetical. This ain't the article. I'm talking to you. I better... Okay, I'm still in the middle of the picture. Okay. Gee, I just noticed the picture. The camera adds 100 pounds. I'm really thin. No. Okay, I admit it. I'm obese. I'm fat. I hate the word obese. It sounds like beast. And it's not a word that came from the people. It's an invented word. I like the word fat. That goes all the way back into before the Norman conquest, into prehistory. We said fat before we could even spell it, before it was even a written word, before anyone could write. Our people said fat. Speaking of which, and I must qualify what I'm about to say with something, and I know people are going to say he doth protest too much. I'm getting too far out of the limb. I'll just remember this is a comedy channel, people. Okay, what's the difference between me and somebody that's crazy? Somebody that's crazy, genuinely crazy, it controls them. With me, I control it. Okay, that's the difference. No. Seriously, though, people, everyone has a diagnosis. I've been referred to as, by serious people in the know, as far as it is possible to understand human psychology and behavior. And I have to say that psychology is not an exact science, as is mathematics, i.e. in the real number system, in, what's it called, base 10, 1 plus 1 does equal 2. That is an exact science. Everything else is tentative, more or less, isn't it? I've had high school physics and high school mathematics, but I'm very defensive because I never pursued it in post-secondary education, and I should have because I love math and physics. The reason why I did not is the subject for another video in which I will have to wax serious. Okay, let's get back in on the limb. What was I talking about? Let's get back to reading this. As it happened, I was also due to be in New York. Is anyone still watching? Let's have a different angle. Oh dear me, I almost broke the wire. There we are. I love my chin. And a narcissistic, obese man, middle-aged man who wears glasses and is bald with white hair on the sides. And yet he's still a narcissist. And he's still making videos, though most people don't watch them. I shall be discovered one day by an agent, and I shall go to Hollywood and New York, and I shall make millions of people laugh and think and ponder, and I shall make lots of money. Somebody said, you're very self-absorbed. Well, I'm very self-absorbed, selfish, and self-centered. Who else am I supposed to be centered around? I can't read other people's thoughts. I can't be another person. Self, by definition, is me, is I. That's the correct grammar. Self, by definition, is I. I cannot be anything that is not I, unless, the brain ceases to function. Or the cognitive abilities, limited knowledge of words descended from the Greek and Latin is showing. See, kids, that's why it's important to stay in school. Doesn't matter. It does matter. Being intelligent, being very intelligent is a good thing. But it comes with this is my opinion, a responsibility to pursue and finish, complete, satisfactorily post-secondary education. Because when you're intelligent, unless you pursue education sooner, learning, sooner or later you're going to get bored. Okay, so, yes, I am self-absorbed. I love me. Don't get me wrong, I like other people. And I do everything. I determine everything as to how it benefits me. Isn't that what evolution tells us? That the purpose of my life is according to evolution, according to materialistic science. The purpose of my life as a man is to acquire sufficient resources to reproduce. Well, I'm going to let y'all know a secret. I ain't reproduced yet. But being the most intelligent man that has ever existed, with the exception of Jesus Christ, if he really is God. This must sound crazy, but you know what? You can't put me in a mental hospital. You can't. You can send a doctor and the men in white clothes to question me, but when they do, I'll act normal, or at least act like the teacher on Ferris Bueller and not say or do anything zany, peculiar, or bizarre. But here on my comedy channel, I can be as bizarre as I want. But understand, it's an act. What I am about to do, I just betrayed my Canadian influence in my talking when I said about. What I'm about to do is to show you one of the possible solutions to depression, to sadness. Now, in mathematics, sometimes there's no solution for a given equation or problem, but sometimes there is a solution, and often more than one solution. Here's my solution to depression and sadness. First, the goal, state your purpose. Purpose is to get happy, to be happy. To be happy, you have to get happy. To get happy, I first get silly. Now, this is just a recreation because I'm not actually sad or depressed at this moment. Okay, but I will pretend to be depressed. Here is my method of operation. Okay, the given is this. Given. I'm sad. I'm depressed. Okay. So, here's what I do. Number one, I go to a mirror alone, because what you're about to do in front of the mirror could get you committed to a mental institution if other people see you. Go to a mirror alone and start making funny faces. Eventually, you're going to start laughing. And that laughter, genuine laughter, is going to lift your spirits and you're going to get happy. So, to describe it, here's the synopsis. You get happy by first getting silly. Look in the mirror and make funny faces. Here we go. Now please, if you're sensitive, please turn off the video now, because I don't want to offend you or disturb you. Okay? Okay, here goes. All children leave the room. Okay? Pause this until all the kids are gone, because I don't want to. Okay, here we go. I'm going to get silly. Watch this. First, I'll start out sad, and then I'll get happy. But first, I got to get silly to get happy. Here we go. I'm depressed. I'm depressed, but I want to be happy. So I'm going to the mirror to make funny faces. Okay, I can hardly not laugh, okay? That lifted my moods, and it works, people, it works. But on the other hand, I'm not a doctor, so I'm not giving medical advice. See your doctor before you try this. And I've never really been depressed. I've been sad, but that's a function of tiredness, isn't it? Maybe I'm incapable of feeling depression. Let me put it this way. My highs, my lows, depressions are higher than average. I've been told that by other people, and it's, I'm pretty fairly well, accurate in my self-assessment. Curb your enthusiasm is what I tell myself before I walk out the door, because this is perception. I think I'm just being happy and entertaining, but a lot of people tell me that I'm zany and over the top and an energy vampire, and being around me is draining. Well, I don't want to be an energy vampire and leave people more negative than they were. I'm trying to make them happy. But you can't make everybody happy. But you can make yourself happy. Money cannot buy happiness, or so they say. What money can buy is comfort and a modicum of safety. Mae West, it's attributed to Mae West that she said, I've been rich and I've been poor. Rich is better. The Bible says, the New Testament says, Jesus said, it's easier for a camel to go through the head of a needle than for a rich man to get into heaven. So just accept the fact that you're going to hell and enjoy your money. No, I'm kidding. Can religion be oppressive? Can religion drive people crazy? Let's put that in a more in a medical term, a scientific term. Can religion? I don't like that unsymmetrical look. Can religion cause mental illness? Ask anybody who's had a relative that was involved in a cult, like the Jehovah's Witnesses. And this is not an attack on people who sincerely believe that religion, but you have to admit that scientists have found that Jehovah's Witnesses have a higher degree of mental illness than the average, than the normal. Don't take my word for it. Google it, and you'll see the same information I read. Incidentally, when Catholics, before Vatican Council II, when most Catholics practiced their religion, well, let me put it this way, believing Catholics, practicing Catholics had a lower rate of mental illness. Of course, that obviously has something to do with the bigger families. Anybody that's ever been around families know that generally, the bigger the family, the happier the family. The more kids there are in the family, the happier the family is. Where am I going? You know what? I'm going to get off of the limbs and go back to the original thing. And I'm probably going to keep this private on my YouTube channel. If I open this up to the public, it's only because I'm a clown and need the attention. I was also due to be in New York that weekend, and so last Friday we were able to sit down for the extensive, at times contentious conversation that follows. I know that you're just coming from Christopher Hitchens' memorial service. How did that go? Oh, wow, this is a long article. I think I'll get hoarse. My voice will get hoarse before I ever finish reading this. I better use a voice. I'll whisper. It was a remarkable event for a remarkable man. And I felt very fortunate to be there. I was invited to give the opening presentation in front of all these literary figures and dignitaries of various sorts. And so I began the only way I think you can begin. And that's with music from Monty Python. That got me over my initial stage fright and my concern about what to say about the someone as extraordinary as Christopher Hawkins. I was able to talk about a lot of the aspects of Christopher that people may not know about, including the fact that he was fascinated by science. And I also got to talk about what it felt like to be his friend. Oh, General Burkhalter impression from Hogan's Heroes. I closed with an anecdote, a true story about the last time I was with him. I was reading the New York Times, Clink, at his kitchen table, and there was an article about the ongoing effort to keep Catholic students at elite colleges like Yale from losing their faith. The article said something like, faced with Nietzsche, and that's the correct pronunciation, folks. It's not Nietzsche. I'm going to say this slowly and then regular tempo. Nietzsche. 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 It's not Nietzsche. Nietzsche. And by the way, it's Meineke. You know the muffler? Meineke, not Meineke. Would it kill them to pronounce it correctly? Meineke, not Meineke. It's like in Yiddish that you pronounce San Francisco, San Francisco. Okay, not San Francisco, San Francisco. Okay, but I digress. The article said something like, faced with Nietzsche, co-ed dorms, Hitchens, and beer pong, I don't even know what that is, students are likely to stray. When I saw the word pong, I thought of a woman who got in trouble, an exotic dancer in British Columbia a few years ago, for shooting a ping pong out of a certain bodily orifice, and students are likely to stray. There are two really amazing aspects of that. For one, to be so culturally ubiquitous that you can be mentioned in a sentence like that without any further explanation is pretty exceptional, but also to be sandwiched between Nietzsche and beer pong is an honor that very few of us can ever aspire to. I want to start with a general question about the relationship between philosophy and physics. There has been a fair amount of sniping between these two disciplines over the past few years. Why the sudden public antagonism between philosophy and physics? Now I can do a Henry Kissinger impression, but it's not an exact copy because my voice doesn't go as low as his does. But this is my impression. Unlike my Nixon impression is pretty close to the real article. Okay, here's Henry Kissinger quoting Krauss. That's a good question, Mr. President. I expect it's because, the glasses. And remember, Kissinger's glasses were always crooked. They weren't Wait a minute, where's the picture? They weren't straight. He's still alive, isn't he? They were always crooked. I guess one ear's lower than the others or something. Okay, they were always crooked like this, right? Mr. President, that's a good question. I expect it's because physics has encroached. It's very, very hard to do a Kissinger impression. The hardest impression is like Governor Rockefeller, Nelson Rockefeller. His voice, doing his voice, kills my voice. I mean, it's like, how you doing, fella? I can't do it. It's too hard to do. I don't want to hurt my singing voice. Okay, so Krauss said, that's a good question. I expect it's because physics has encroached on philosophy. Philosophy used to be a field that had content, but then natural philosophy became physics, and physics has only continued to make inroads. Every time there's a leap in physics, it encroaches on these areas that philosophers have carefully sequestered away to themselves. And so then you have this natural resentment on the part of philosophers, this sense that somehow physicists, because they can't spell the word philosophy, aren't justified in talking about these things or haven't thought deeply about them. Why is it that I respect somebody who understands fully at least Calculus 101 than I would respect someone who doesn't understand elementary high school algebra? It's wrong for me not to respect that person. My religion tells me everyone is of infinite human dignity, inasmuch as we are all children of God. But I digress. This sense that somehow physicists, because they can't spell the word philosophy, aren't justified in talking about these things, or haven't thought deeply about them, it just stops there. I don't know why. Here's the next question. Is that really a claim that you see often, Krauss? It is. Philosophy is a field that... Oh, I'll show you a picture of Mr. Krauss. I hope the picture's not copyrighted. Now, is that an exact... let's see if we got the exact... Okay, that should be enough. I can't see it when I'm doing that, so... Well, that's fine. You probably know what I'm talking about, but it's not important enough to talk about. My voice is getting hoarse, but I want to continue this article. On that note, you were recently quoted as saying that philosophy hasn't progressed in 2,000 years, unquote. But computer science, particularly research into artificial intelligence, was to a large degree built on foundational work done by philosophers in logic and other formal languages. And certainly philosophers like John Rawls, I wonder if he was related to Lou Rawls, brother. Philosophers like John Rawls have been immensely influential in fields like political science and public policy. Do you view those as legitimate achievements? Krauss. Well, yeah, I mean, look, it was being provocative, as I tend to do every now and again, in order to get people's attention. There are areas of philosophy that are important, but I think of them as being subsumed by other fields. In the case of descriptive philosophy, you have literature or logic, which in my view is really mathematics. Formal logic is mathematics, and there are philosophers like Wittgenstein. Did you know that Wittgenstein went to school with... Never mind, it's controversial. Wittgenstein, I'll repeat the sentence. Formal logic is mathematics, and there are philosophers like Wittgenstein that are very mathematical, but what they're really doing is mathematics. Wittgenstein was teaching in Austria, and some kid was stupid, and he whooped him upside the head, and he hurt the kid, and Wittgenstein suffered for years from guilt. Did he eventually kill himself? Anyways, I'll look it up later on Wikipedia. Okay, for the third time. Formal logic is mathematics, and there are philosophers like Wittgenstein that are very mathematical, but what they're really doing is mathematics. It's not talking about things that have affected computer science. It's mathematical logic. And again, I think of the interest and work in philosophy as being subsumed by other disciplines like history, literature, and to some extent, political science. It's a fact. Is ethique can be said to fall under that heading. Russian. To me, what philosophy does best is reflect on knowledge that's generated in other areas. I am not sure that is right, I think that in some cases, philosophy actually generates no fields. Computer science is a perfect example. Certainly, philosophical work and logic can be said to have been subsumed by computer science, but subsumed might be the wrong word. Well, you name me the philosophers that did key work for computer science. I think of John von Neumann and other mathematicians, but Bertrand Russell paved the way for von Neumann. But Bertrand Russell was a mathematician. I mean, he was a philosopher too, and he was interested in philosophical foundations of mathematics. But, by the way, when he wrote about the philosophical foundation of mathematics, what did he do, baby? He got it wrong, did he? But Einstein got it wrong too. Sure, but the difference is that scientists are really happy when they get it wrong, because it means that there's more to learn. And look, one can play semantic games, but I think that if you look at the people whose work really pushed the computer revolution from Turing to von Neumann, and you're right, Bertrand Russell in some general way, I think you'll find it's the mathematicians who had the big impact. Am I getting my full punum? How do you like my Goya Shapunum? I hope they don't censor that. And logic can certainly, it's not what you think. Ask your Jewish friend what punum means. And logic can certainly be claimed to be a part of philosophy, but to me the content of logic is mathematical. Do you find the same tension between theoretical and empirical physics? Sometimes, but it shouldn't be there. This is Krauss speaking again, or Krauss, however he pronounces that. Krauss would be the German pronunciation, or Krauss. Physics is an empirical science. As a theoretical physicist, I could tell you that I recognize that it's the experiment that drives the field, and it's very rare to have it go the other way. David Brinkley. This is David Brinkley, and this is David Brinkley's journal. Einstein is, of course, the obvious exception. But even he was guided by observation. Jacob Bronowski. Did you see the PBS series he made, The Ascent of Man, in the 70s? Of course, it's dated now. They wouldn't use man in the universal sense. They would say humanity or humankind. Or my personal favorite, person. I think it should be called The Ascent of Person. Anyways, you can probably watch it on YouTube. I think you can. Jacob Bronowski. It's fascinating. For someone of my genius to have the privilege to be permitted to learn from another highly gifted individual like Dr. Bronowski was one of the highlights of my teenagerhood. Sometimes, but it shouldn't be there. Physics is an empirical science. As a theoretical physicist, I can tell you that I recognize that it's this experiment that drives the field, and it's very rare to have it go the other way. Einstein is, of course, the obvious exception, but even he was guided by observation. It's usually the universe that is surprising us, not the other way around. Question, moving on to your book, A Universe from Nothing. What did you hope to accomplish when you set out to write it? Krauss. Every time I write a book, I try and think of a hook. I would have said I try to think of a hook. He said I try and think of a hook. A lot of people use that, but I think it's wrong. I mean, I know it's in Volksmund. It's in the mouth of the people, of the plebeians, of the vulgar. I'm just kidding. I'm doing an impression of snob when I said vulgar. People are interested in science, but they don't all remember there's no dumb questions. Well, maybe there are dumb questions, like, why is green green and blue blue? Well, actually, that's not dumb. There is a scientific explanation for that. There are no dumb questions if they are asked from a sincere mind. I was going to say heart, but I'm trying to be empirical and materialistic right now and leave religion out of it. May God strike me dead if he exists. Just kidding. Just kidding. Every time I write a book, I try and think of a hook. Is there anybody? This is all ego. I tried to make a serious video, and it's all fucking ego. If anybody's still watching, the question is, why? I know I'm good looking and handsome and debonair, and I'm on the market. So where are my eyebrows? They don't show up. Oh, I see them now. Oh, I'm only doing that because it actually corrects my vision, makes my myopia much better. You're saying if I'm myopic, how come I can't see good up close? I don't know, but I know I cannot see good. I need glasses to drive. Everything's a blur that's more than a foot away. Running out of steam. What about fuel in the tank? Today I've had 3 hot dogs, and hot dogs just the from the package. And who knows what they put in that stuff? That red dye. It's supposed to be carcinogenic, but who knows? You gotta strike a fine balance between what paranoia to somebody is an abundance of caution to other people. So you can't please everybody, so you might as well please your mother. Okay, teaching and writing to me is really just seduction. You go to where people are and you find something that they're interested in and you try to use that to convince them that they should be interested in what you have to say. Duh, ka-ching. That's the way they make the money. The religious question, why is there something rather than nothing, has been around since people have been around. And now we're actually reaching a point where science is beginning to address that question. That's interesting. And so I figured, but let's face it, the human mind will always, as far as we can tell, the human mind will always be able to pose questions and imagine things that will probably always be impossible to accomplish. I'll let you figure out what that meant, because I don't want to go out on more limbs for a while. The religious question, okay, so now I'm starting to get tired. So the zaniness is wearing off, and my behavior starts to down towards normal, whatever that is. I use the word average because normal is just, nobody's completely normal, right? I'd rather prefer the word average. See, people say, oh, it's so hot. Today it ain't supposed to be but 99 degrees. Well, I don't know what it's supposed to be. It's 100 degrees in the shade with 99% relative humidity. Oh, I'm describing the weather, some of the weather that I remember from Tidewater, Virginia, back in the 70s when I lived there. I lived there in the 60s too. I actually lived there in the 80s for a few months. I cannot give you too much information because I'm concerned about identity theft. Oh, wait a minute. I have an intense desire to tell you my bank account number and details so you can snatch. Okay, here it is, identity thieves. I can't resist. I got a compulsion. I'm OCD. Okay, the name of my bank is First Merchants National Bank of the Peninsula, Newport News, Virginia. And my bank account number is ABC123. And my real name is Alexander Louis Victor Vincent Loser Van Schnickelhaber von und zu der Klapsmühle. Isn't this interesting? You're getting your comedy fix, and plus you're learning something. The religious question, why is there something rather than nothing, has been around since people have been around. And now we're actually reaching a point where science is beginning to address that question. And so I figured I could use that question as a way to celebrate the revolutionary changes that we have achieved in refining our picture of the universe. I didn't write the book to attack religion per se. The purpose of the book is to point out all these amazing things that we now know about the universe. Reading some of the reactions. Okay, how about a moderate Southern accent? In other words, somebody from the sticks in the South who's trying to cover up his Southern accent and is fairly successful, but not completely. Reading some of the reactions to the book, it seems like you automatically become strident the minute you try to explain something naturally. Richard Dawkins wrote the afterword for the book, and I thought it was pretentious at the time, but I just decided to go with it, where he compares the book to the origin of species. I always call it the origin of the species, the origin of the species. And of course, as a scientific work, it doesn't sum close to the origin of species, which is one of the greatest scientific works ever produced. That's his opinion. And I say that as a physicist, okay, now I'm going to do impression of a theist. I believe in God. Jesus is my Savior. And I believe you'll go to hell unless you believe. At this point, I'd like to recommend you watch George Carlin's video. It's on YouTube on religion, the greatest bullshit story ever told. I'm sorry, religion people. But it's very interesting. And those of us who are generally religious and believe, we need to ponder on how we're going to react to this, because it raises some interesting points. And I want you to believe. I know that not only do I believe God exists. Now, I'm being me. I'm being serious. Whenever I say I'm being serious, that's up. You take it to the bank. You can depend on being serious. I believe in God, but it's more that I know God exists. I have felt the presence of God ever since I can remember. My first memories was when I was about 2.5. And I know God exists. And I know Jesus is my Lord and Savior. And sorry, folks, but I know that the Catholic Church is let me put it this way. I believe, I'll try to be humble, I believe, as do about 1 billion other Catholics, that the church that Jesus Christ historically established exists in all her fullness in the Catholic Church, while non-Catholics have some elements of the truth, of religious truth, and indeed enough for salvation, so teaches the Church. They, the non-Catholics, nevertheless lack the fullness of the religion that God wants us to have in this point in time. And to people of the Jewish faith, who might say, why don't Christians try to convert us? Or why do Christians try to convert us? Well, the answer to that is they are supposed to try to convert you. But it probably won't work verbally for the most part. We're supposed to, something St. Francis that's attributed to St. Francis of Assisi. Some people call it a sissy, but I don't believe St. Francis was a sissy. I believe he was a gentle man, but he was a strong man, strong in his head. And he was strong physically before his many bodily penances and fasting sort of wore himself out. Francis of Assisi said, preach the word ceaselessly all day, and when necessary, use the spoken word. So we're supposed to, Christians ideally are supposed to witness through their behavior. Now, sometimes I'm backslid. Sometimes I'm not going to go into it. But if I saw a pretty woman who wanted to help me out with something, it would be very hard for me to say no. But having said that, I believe in my faith with all my heart. And people say, oh, that's because your parents were Catholic. If your parents weren't Catholic, you wouldn't be Catholic. That's not true. I'm the first Catholic in my family since the Reformation, as far as I know. I don't know of anybody else in my family, blood relate, that's a Catholic. I converted to the Catholic Church because of sincerity. With all, I don't mean to sound bigoted or closed-minded, or, I'm not closed-minded, but my mind is open. My mind is open, but not far enough that my brains fell out. That's not original. I first heard that from Hank Hanegraaff, the Bible Answer Man, who used to live in Irvine, California, but the mailing address was San Juan Capistrano, because it sounds better than Irvine. But he moved to North Carolina. Anyways, the line is his. He probably got it from somebody else. Most good lines are not unique, are not original to the person you hear saying it. When you're a young person and you hear an older person say something pithy and funny genuinely humorous, it's probably not original. And most people will not, say where they got it from. But we're parrots to a large degree. Maybe my talent for imitation, voices and sounds, maybe it doesn't bespeak intelligence. Maybe I'm just like a parrot. I mean, parrots can talk in different accents. Okay, I've always gone by the assumption I have a genius level IQ, at least highly gifted, at the very least bright. But just for the sake of argument, I'll pretend to be normal. I have a normal level IQ. My IQ is 100. Not really, but remember, this is for the sake of argument. Okay, I've got a normal IQ, 100. Okay, here's my biggest academic accomplishment thus far. I have learned to talk the German language almost as good, almost indistinguishable from that of a native speaker. And I say that with all humility. Native speakers are the ones. I'll prove it to you. I'll get something to read in German right now, boys. Now, my accent is indistinguishable from that of a native speaker. Okay? Now here we go. Wie die deutschen Städte ihre Namen erhielten. In Deutschland weisen die Orts und Städtenamen auf eine enge Beziehung zur Landschaft und zur Geschichte hin. I'm just kidding. I love to speak German with a southern accent. Okay, seriously. I'm going to give you several German accents and see if you can pick out the general geography of each different accent. Ready? Here we go. Darin unterscheiden sie sich von amerikanischen Städtenamen, die häufig zum Ausdruck bringen, wie zufällig ihre Entstehung gewesen ist. Oft endet der Name einer deutschen Ortschaft auf die Silberburg, wobei der mittelalterliche Ursprung deutlich wird. In einer Zeit, in der das Leben auf dem Lande noch unsicher war, deutete die Bezeichnung Burg auf Mauern, Türme oder andere Befestigungen hin, hinter denen sich ein Bürger sicher und geborgen fühlen konnte. I could even speak faster if it wasn't for my, well, I guess I could put the glasses on so I could see better. Okay, folks, and I need more light too. You get the general impression. I can speak German, and well enough so that Germans think I'm German. Wenn man Namen wie Hamburg, Merseburg oder Magdeburg hört, dann muss man an das Feudalsystem des Mittelalters denken oder an die Zeit, in der deutsche Könige oder Kaiser viele Burgen oder Grenzfestungen bauen ließen, um gegen die Angriffe von außen, besonders im slawischen Osten, geschützt zu sein. Der deutsche Name Burg entspricht also ungefähr dem amerikanischen Fort, das wie Fort Morgan oder Fort Dodge an die militärischen Posten aus der Zeit der Indianerkriege erinnern. By the way, this book came out in the 60s, so there might be some words that are obsolete or downright offensive, such as referring to Native Americans as Indians, okay, or Indiana, as they say in German. Actually, I've heard Germans refer to Native Americans as Rot-Indianer, which means red Indians. And that's probably offensive, but again, the book is from the 60s. Deutsch lesen und denken by Rader, Thomas, and Twaddle. I love that name, Twaddle. So Anglo-Celtic. Holt, Reinhardt, and Winston. There's a great publishing house, eh? Anyways, you get the drift. So German, learning to speak German almost as well as a native speaker. And I have to say, I've never lived in a German-speaking country. And I never lived with people that spoke German. I did this all on my own. Oh, I took 4 years of German in high school and 1 semester at Old Dominion University. And I dropped out of a 2nd semester at Christopher Newport College of the College of William and Mary, which is now referred to as Christopher Newport University. And I frequent the University of British Columbia, which is... I love learning. I hope I don't come across as a snob, but I simply love learning and I respect education. I dropped out of university simply because it was too structured for my eccentricities and my exuberant, irrepressible personality. Perhaps now I could return to the University of British Columbia, minus a few million brain cells, because I'm 57 years old. I don't have the brains I did when I was 20. But I still have a genius level IQ. Now, that's my sincere belief. I have a genius level IQ. For the sake of argument, let's go back to saying I have an average IQ of 100. Okay, so that leaves you without excuse, people. Okay, I'm talking to an individual right now. You're smarter than I am. Oh, the British don't use the word smart to mean intelligent. You're much more intelligent than I am. So you don't speak German? You never learned a foreign language? You're without excuse. You are intellectually lazy. I demand that the very least that you learn one foreign language, because it broadens your intellectual horizons. It opens up socializing in a more meaningful, deeper and more meaningful way. Learn French. And you don't have to just learn one foreign language. Even somebody with an average IQ, the average human brain is so powerful that according to Carl Sagan, the average human brain can record all the information in a complete set of Encyclopedia Britannica times 20 billion. That's what Carl Sagan said. Whether that's true or not, the average human brain is powerful enough to learn every major European religion. This I set as a goal to other English speakers. I want you to learn to speak. I want you to take beginning French, German, Spanish, Italian, Russian, and what are the other major languages? Even Chinese. It's not impossible. It's well within the ken of someone with an IQ of 100 to learn to speak Chinese. It's a function of time. It's a function of intelligence, but you have that intelligence. Assuming that you are of average intelligence, you have that intelligence. And I'm not saying people with a below 100 IQ cannot learn these things. It'd probably take them a little bit more time. It's almost been an hour, and I'm just getting started. But I'm not going to read any more of the article. It's called, you get the drift. You can read it. It's from the Atlantic Online. The title is Has Physics Made Philosophy and Religion Obsolete? And it's written by Ross Anderson. Anderson with an E, not an O. Okay, folks. Oh, and I'll show you a picture of the gorgeous mathematical equations on the blackboard. Somebody who knows higher math can tell me if it's real math or if it's just gibberish written by a math illiterate writer. Speaking of mathematics, now I consider myself mathematically illiterate. I consider myself guilty of not using my time, talents, and my treasure of intelligence, to learn more mathematics. I only fully understand as high as Algebra 1. Algebra 1 is what they called in Virginia in the 60s introductory high school elementary algebra, Algebra 1. My full understanding only includes that and some geometry. But I haven't, and I feel guilty about that. I mean, I should have devoted more. Depends on what you're interested in. I always put it off. I haven't even read the full works of Shakespeare. I've been putting that off and putting that off until I retire. And I've been putting off learning higher mathematics. Don't get me wrong. I understand the concept behind trigonometry, but I've never memorized the identities. You know, the sines, cosines, cosecants, cotangents, and that stuff. I've forgotten what part of the triangle they represent, the angles and stuff. But I understand the general concept. I do not, and I've never studied Calculus 101, but I understand the concepts behind differential and integral calculus. I have the capacity to learn this stuff, but I'm putting it off. It's like you're savory. You want something to eat or drink, a delicious gourmet meal, or a fine wine, or in my case, an ice cold, extraordinarily well carbonated Coca-Cola. But you're putting it off because anticipation is a big part of the pleasure. Anticipation. Just like when you go home on Friday night and you see your wife and you're anticipating studying the Bible with her, right? Well, at this point, I've probably alienated 99% of atheists and agnostics and other unbelievers. And I've probably, believers, is one of my eyes bigger than the other? I think my right eye is slightly bigger than it. So I'm going to close my right eye a little and make my left eye bigger. How's that? Okay, so, folks, I'm nuts. I'm crazy. By the standard definition of people I grew up with, not my family. My family are high intelligent too. Otherwise, it takes intelligent people to create a genius. I mean, it's genetic, isn't it? Anybody's capable of being a genius. Take a person with an average IQ of 100. Add motivation. And you can build. People say, I'm not motivated. I didn't take math in school because it's hard and I wasn't motivated to learn it. The secret about motivation is you can create a vast reservoir of motivation, sustained so that you can learn whatever you want to learn. Folks, I'm going to be serious for just a minute. Now, it may appear that I'm megalomaniacal. Might appear that I'm a megomaniac. But no brag, just fact. First of all the credit for whatever gift I have, the credit goes to the good Lord because He made me. I didn't make myself. I can't even create an amoeba, the simplest cell or form of life. I'm a genius, but not smart enough, not intelligent enough to even create the simplest form of life because I ain't God. But for my high intelligence, all the credit and glory goes to the good Lord. After all, I'm only one stroke away from being not intelligent. Let me put it that way. I don't want to use the dated psychological terms for someone whose IQ is below 80, 60, and 40, respectively. Well, I'll go into that some other time. Suffice it to say that words such as idiot, moron, and imbecile were actually scientific words referring to lower, and yet lower IQs. But that goes way back towards the early 20th century and before. So, anybody of average IQ can learn calculus or anything you want. You just need to add motivation, and you can create as much motivation as you want. It's all up here. Oh, and here too, in the heart. I just wish my genius is limited. As I say, I'm not God. But it's possible that I might be the most intelligent human being that has ever existed. Besides any human beings that were also at the same time God. me put it this way. I know that I am the most intelligent man, except for Jesus Christ, who has ever existed or whoever will exist. Okay, folks. Okay, now I'm not being serious. I'm trying to be a convinced megalomaniac, but I don't really believe that. I don't really know how intelligent I am. I know I'm very smart. And you English people out there, I'm going to use the word smart because that's the way we talk here. And if you don't like the word smart to mean intelligent, that's your problem. Get out of Ireland. And I like the English, I really do. I'm part English. I mean, if I had my genetic code deciphered, I would probably be about, well, I don't remember the exact names of the genes, but I'm about 2/3 Germanic and 1/3 Celtic genetically. That's just a guess. I don't know. My brother thinks that we're 1/32 Jewish. Now, I hope, and please, I don't want to get any neo-Nazis on my case, okay? I may be 1/32 Jewish. So, it is what it is. Maybe that's where I got my brains from. But seriously though, folks, I'm 100% human. And we're all of infinite value because we're sons of God. And we're created in God's image. So every human being is of great value and worth and dignity, but not just great value. We are of infinite dignity and value. What about other forms of life, non-human forms of life? Yes, animals have dignity, and I should say, animals have worth, value, and we must respect their lives. All life is worthwhile, but only human life is infinitely valuable. No, I have to rephrase that, because the lives of the angels and saints in heaven are also of infinite value. Let me put it this way. Non-human animals are of great value and worth, but they're not of infinite value. Okay. Now, I'm not an animals' rights fanatic, but I can tell you this. I don't believe animals should be experimented on. In Whistler, British Columbia, 2 or 3 years ago, this company slaughtered many, many dozens of dogs, and I still haven't recovered psychologically from it. The guy that ordered the slaughter and the guy that actually did it should have been put in jail for, and I mean hard labor, for at least a full year. And I think 5 years would be more just. Folks, I don't want to bring y'all down, but it's a true fact. They killed all them dogs. And it's wrong, wrong, wrong. It's just like in the 100 years ago in the United States, was it 20 million buffaloes that were killed? What about all the wolves that were killed? It was just wrong, wrong, wrong. And but the good news is, I was going to say we're getting better as a society, but are we really? Anyway, so we've got to change the law so that people who harm animals get a minimum of a year in prison at hard labor, so that these dogs are never killed again or harmed in any way, or any other animal for that matter. And I'm dead against what they call vivisection, or operating on animals for scientific purposes or for medical science. I'm sorry. If your medical advances require cutting up animals, unless they're dead from natural causes, from old age or whatever, vivisection, that's experimenting on cutting up live animals. It's wrong, and it should be made illegal. But on the other hand, I'm not a fanatic. I would not break the law. Like there's some environmental terrorists that do certain things. I would not, to protect it. Well, wait a minute now. I have to qualify that again. If I saw a guy beating up his dog, would I intervene? I probably would, because I probably would. I'd restrain him. I wouldn't hurt him. The human, I wouldn't hurt him, but I would certainly restrain him. And in the process of trying to restrain him, if he broke free and was fixing to harm me, then I would exercise self-defense to the extent that he couldn't harm me. But no, if I saw anybody harming an animal, I would intervene, and I wouldn't care whether the person would sue me in court or not, because I love critters, especially hound dogs. Now, I call any dog a hound dog. Some people say a hound dog is a particular kind of dog. That's true. But I go back to the original meaning of the word hound, which is cognate to the German Hund, which simply means what we now call, in English, dog. I love dogs. I always have. And you can look at a picture of baby Princess, also known as Dallas. And I love dogs. So, anyways, this video has, I'm going to take a break. Okay, so I hope that my genius for comedy has, if just one person has laughed or smiled, I consider this video a success. And even if they ain't, I made it primarily for myself. So, okay, I'm going to make a video soon about humility. I am fascinated by humble people, by humility, simply because I have so little of it. So, until next time, folks, may the peace of God, the love of Jesus Christ, and the communion of the Holy Ghost be with you always and in always. And here's a blessing for atheists, agnostics, and others who just cannot seem to bring themselves to faith. Atheists, agnostics, may you blank. Do your own thing. May you do what you want to do. May you, how about this? May y'all get all the good things in life has to offer. I just can't turn this off. I love looking at me, and I love talking with I was going to say faux Southern accent, but it really ain't faux, because I lived in the South. From the time I was 7 until well into my 24th year. And then I went back several times for a period of well over a year, since 79. So no, my mother tongue ain't Southern, in as much as I was born in Canada and raised by Canadians, and we never even moved to the South till I was 7 and change. But in a sense, Southern's my Southern accent. Am I an energy vampire? I'm not going to limit myself to that term. Somebody accused me of being draining, listening to me, being in my presence. But you know what? That was only 1 out of 10. The other 9 were being entertained and was laughing, hooting, and hollering. So just because 1 of the 10 didn't dig the show doesn't mean I shouldn't do it. Now, should I go out today? Or should I stay home? I've been staying home because I want to see how long I can stand staying home. Now, when I say staying home, I don't mean staying right in the house or on the property. I mean staying in the general area. I'll go as far as the grocery store or to get other necessities, but then I'll come right back to my abode. So, anyways, here's a future topic I'd like to get into. Now, I'm not afraid to get into controversial subjects. I want to understand. I want to understand the world, what some people who are different are going through. I want to understand what African Americans have gone through. And if somebody says, why don't you take African American studies? I don't have the money, I don't have the time, I don't have the energy. But I can get the books. I think they have an African American program at the University of British Columbia. I can get the texts, but it's like trying to understand what African Americans have been through: slavery, discrimination, hatred. Can we really fully understand it? Maybe it's like explaining something visual to somebody born blind that don't have no idea what you're talking about. When you're talking about the beautiful color of the leaves and the contrast of them leaves against the sky. I can understand, I do have an inkling of what African Americans have been through. An inkling of the suffering, of the discrimination, of the bigotry, of the rejection. Inasmuch as I am a visible minority, I'm a minority inasmuch as I am, to use society's term, obese. And I am a visible minority inasmuch as I am visible. And obese people are a minority. Albeit we are not a legally protected minority in the same sense as certain ethnic groups. Anyway, so I want to understand everybody, but especially people that have suffered. African Americans, I want to understand better anti-Semitism. And this is controversial, but I want to understand neo-Nazis. For example, I want to understand why they feel and think the way they does. Again, I want to have a scientific understanding. It's not that I'm into it, but it is a reality. It's all a reality. All of the above is a reality at this point in time in America, and I want to understand it. Me, personally, my philosophy is Catholic. Some people would describe it as socially liberal and theologically conservative. I want to understand gaiety. I want to understand what some people would call homosexuality. I want to understand why they are the way they are. And I want to, I want to understand everything. I want to know everything it's possible to know. Here's an interesting fact. Okay, but reality, everything that is, everything that exists, everything that's real, everywhere in the universe, everything that exists. Let's equate that to X. Okay, what percentage of X do we actually know? Is it much less than 1%? Interesting, isn't it? I try not to be a snob, but I feel best, happiest when I'm around intelligent people who also happen to be good people, kind people. So I hope I've been entertaining. I hope I've been thought-provoking. I don't want to be controversial, but I know that more and more religionists tend to be seen as bigoted and closed-minded, and I think that's unfortunate. But let's get into morality for a second. There are just certain things that will always be beyond the pale. Let's get into sexuality. There will be certain sexual practices that are always unacceptable and illegal, and of course immoral, that are never going to be made illegal because they're so loathsome. The only question is where to draw the line, okay? As much as I want to be seen as liberal and as accepting and as open-minded, and I am, there are limits. I cannot call something which I find unnatural and frankly gross sexual practice. I cannot equate that to holy matrimony between a man and a woman. I cannot. And I think it's scientifically fraudulent to claim that it is. So I hope I haven't alienated Hollywood, because they always need fat guys, a fat sidekick to make the leading man look better. So I hope I haven't closed any doors on Hollywood, but I'm not going to lie. Okay. Love the sin, but hate the sinner. No, I'm sorry. I mean, love the sinner, but hate the sin. Well, okay, I'm going to lay my cards on the table. I believe that homosexual actions are wrong. Okay? But that's all I'm going to say. I'm not the only one. It's the teaching of my church. I have to believe it if I'm to believe my church. If I don't believe it, then the church is wrong. And I cannot accept that the church is wrong. So I'm just kidding. Everything I said is just kidding. Please don't be angry. Y'all have a nice day now. I can't quit looking at me. Have a nice day. Have a nice day. Okay, I have a confession to make. I'm not really religious. I'm really an atheist. Even when I say I'm being serious, I might not really be being serious. And I'm not really religious. I am an atheist. I understand white people, and I'm not really against gaiety. I just said that to see what did it sound like. But I know what? I'm a great actor. I'm not a professional actor. I'm a real actor, an actor in real, everyday life. But I just want to be clear. I'm not a professional actor. I'm not trying to defraud anybody. Is my face red? Is that what they call rosacea or something? Maybe I should fast. If fasting is going without food, then what do you call feasting? Slowing? And here's another question I'm going to wrap up with, folks. No, serious. I want to be serious with y'all. I'm really being serious. I'm not joking. I am an atheist. No, I'm going to be serious now. I'm really a theist. And I'm really a Roman Catholic. No, I'm just kidding. I'm really a gay man. No, I'm just kidding. You believed that, didn't you? You know why? Because I'm intelligent and I'm creative. You actually believe me. I was kidding. You can't get any straighter than I am. I mean, I have full respect and mitleid and beileid for people of all orientations. But I'm as straight as the day is long. At the North Pole in the middle of winter. But no. Does it matter? Does it really matter? Seriously, does it matter? But now I feel I gotta go get a girlfriend. I don't want you guys to think I'm gay. Not that there's anything wrong with it. I just don't want you to think. Why? If I'm really open-minded, why am I concerned? Because if a good-looking woman thinks I'm gay, maybe I'd miss out on an opportunity to have carnal knowledge of her body. And, oops, I shouldn't have said that. Mom, turn off the video. How can a fat guy so fat and ugly as me be egotistical and narcissistic and love looking at his hair? You answer that one, and you'll be a person of great wisdom. Now, you may have noticed of all my accents, I haven't used an East Indian accent. That is an Indian accent, an accent of people from India. And I haven't used an accent of First Nations or Native Americans because I don't want them to think I'm making fun of them. And is that discriminatory in a positive sense? I suppose you could say it is. I've done every other accent I can think of, but I won't do that one because I want to make sure it doesn't hurt anybody's feelings. But, and I even do African American because I think they know where my heart's at, because I growed up with African Americans. I can name chapter and verse. I growed up in Newport News, Virginia, and one of my best friends in high school was African American. You don't agree with me? I mean, you don't believe me? Okay, I'm going to name names. His name is Andre M. Cooper. I think the M stands for Maurice, but he's a professor and a doctor. He's into linguistics. He knows the science of linguistics better than I do. Now, I can do the voices and accents, and I have the capacity to learn many more, but he understands the scientific jargon and vocabulary thereof. Now, Andre's a genius too, but not smart enough to even understand my genius. What can I say? I'm the smartest person who's ever lived. All the credit, I'm being humble, I'm just stating the fact, all the credit goes to God. God gave me my brain. I didn't give myself my brain. No, I'm just kidding, folks. I'm of average intelligence. So, no, I'm really a genius. No, I'm just, okay, this is getting stupid. I'm going to go out to ride my tricycle. See you later. And I hope you've been entertained. I hope you love silly people. I hope you love wacky and zany people, even if it's just takeable in small doses. Now, I'm going to stop this thing in mid-sentence, for example. I'm going to start making funny faces and talking in tongues. Watch this. Make a living,